And then I am recording as well. So we're going to see how this
All right.
works. Yay. Okay. All right. Welcome to the Creative Nectar podcast. I am Stephanie Gray.
And I'm Jenny Hahn. Hey, everybody.
Hi. Today we are going to talk about the nervous system, regulating the nervous system with creativity and what that looks like, and maybe share a few stories, a few tips, the drill, how we do it. So that's what that's the topic of conversation today. Um, I guess we should probably dive right in because it's a pretty layered topic. We're not going to get too far down the rabbit hole because we're not medical professionals. And
Right.
we are two artists who have experienced our own dysregulation and regulation through creativity. And and then we might talk about the world as a whole, and how it looks to be dysregulated and how we can regulate. So that's what we're doing today. And I think we should just get started.
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, the first thing, because this is kind of near and dear to my heart, just because I have my own dysregulation stuff that's going on, I will just quickly talk about the nervous system itself. Just to say that if you're feeling overwhelm, anxiety, the fight or flight feeling, that's sort of what we're talking about right now. And I think, Jenny, you were saying that's parasympathetic nervous system stuff, or
That's
no?
the sympathetic nervous
Sympathetic.
system is
Okay.
the when the prefrontal cortex kind of goes offline and it's like the reptilian brain kind of takes over. So the fight or flight, yeah, that's usually associated with the sympathetic nervous system.
Gotcha. Okay. And so that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today. I know for myself that dealing with chronic illness, specifically some hormonal things with the thyroid, that directly tied into my nervous system health. And so because of that, it's just important that we talk about it because I know, in fact, I was walking out on my walk today and I met a neighbor and we immediately started talking about world events and then how it just sort of like hyped us up and made us feel anxious and the anxiety around that and the instability, and we started talking about the nervous system. It was crazy. And then we were talking about, how we can, nourish it and destabilize or it stabilize things. So I don't know. I just feel like it's not a handful of people dealing with this right now. It's probably quite a bit.
Hmm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's normal for our bodies and our systems to respond when there's stresses and triggers in the world. I mean, there's a lot of horrific things happening and that's normal, but learning tools and ways to self-soothe, to regulate, to um, basically to trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, the healing and the regeneration. And yeah, we're going to be talking about this because it's been proven time and time again that art making actually promotes that. Is one of the many things that promotes it. So yeah, we're super excited about that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we could just sort of dive in with what that looks like in a practice, or I can talk about my own experience if I mean, we might as well, right? We're here.
We're here, and yeah, I mean, let's share some stories.
Well, yeah, I so as many of you know, I am an adoptee, and that causes trauma from the very beginning. And then I've had trauma loss or loss trauma, however you want to put it. And all of this stuff just sort of piled up in my body, but I didn't realize it. Like I had no skills to know that I was going through a traumatic event or traumatic events. And so by the time I got into my 30s, my body was starting to give me signs that things weren't okay. Um, and then at that point, another series of traumatic events happened: the death of my parents, a bad breakup. And that sort of like my body was like, okay, I'm done, and I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't drink coffee anymore. I felt really tired all the time, but it felt like tired and wired, I think is what people say. So
Mm,
it's like you feel tired all the time, but also you can't go to sleep when you want to. And
mm,
just feeling anxiety, which I had never felt before. All of these things, plus more, led me to begin my whole thing of getting diagnosed with certain chronic illnesses. But the the thing I want to impart is that as this was happening, I was still obviously creating and, doing things with you, Jenny, with Sarah, and really realizing that when I was in a situation where I was feeling anxious, I could come back to the page or come to the page and just put my anxiety on the page. And then I immediately was able to contact the rest of my body, if that makes sense. Because when you're in fight, for me,
mm,
when I'm in fight or flight and in anxiety, it's all a head game. And so what I need to do is just figure out a way to get it out. That way, then I can begin to access, like, what does it feel like when my feet are touching the ground? And then
mm.
going from there and really stabilizing inside my body. So embodying the nourishment that I needed. And really, I mean, it's a recovery game, and every little step counts. And I don't know, it's just so important to talk about the different ways that we can do this on a daily basis, because with all the influx of social media and all the ways we get our news coming at us and bombarding us in ways that it never has before, like I feel like this
Right.
directly affects us too.
Right, right. And it's more important than ever to have ways to come back to grounding and yeah, because of all the outer stimulation and ways that it's coming at us. Yeah, more than ever. It's so important.
Well, and
Yeah.
and one of the reasons, I was just reading this earlier, one of the reasons that creativity and art making and all of the creative processes actually work to help sort of recalibrate things is because the vagus nerve is stimulated by expressing yourself. And especially
Mm.
because right in here, when you sing or chant, even, if you're chanting and meditating, all of that, there's this resonance that happens, and it helps stimulate the vagus nerve, which is I think it's the biggest nerve in our body. It
I think
is, yeah,
so.
and it's responsible for the mental and emotional well-being of us. So it's important to stimulate
Mm.
it. And dancing will do it,
Yes.
so that it's not just the art making. It is expressing ourselves,
Expression.
which is
Expression.
just
Yeah.
amazing.
It is. I think I read somewhere the vagus is Latin for wandering. It's
Yes.
like a wandering nerve that it's literally like our whole body. I mean, it like touches every part of our body. It's like, yeah. And when we can express in our bodies like that has a soothing, healing effect. I love the book Your Brain on Art. I here since we're doing video too. This book by Susan Magsamen and Ivy Ross actually has a lot of examples of studies, and I mean, my gosh, there's been so many studies about the healing power of art and how art making, even just for 45 minutes of simple art making, whether or not you identify as an artist, can start to reprogram the nervous system. And yeah, how yeah, how automatic that becomes and how simple you know, we don't have to be trained artists. It can be simple. I'm sure many of us have heard about like coloring books, you know, the adult coloring books, how coloring can be soothing and resourcing even. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm struck by every time I'm in the shower, I sing. And I'm struck by how
Lovely.
potent that is. Yeah, it's like, oh, so now you know. But it's like
I love it.
I'm giving everyone that's listening right now permission to sing in the shower. Doesn't matter what it
Oh,
sounds like.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yes.
Jenny's like, yes.
I love singing in the shower. I mean, the shower is like such a wonderful experience anyway, because you've got all the, what is it, negative ions? I mean, the healing qualities of water and the symbolism of cleansing and releasing and letting go. And then to sing and have that resonance, it's like so natural. And that's where, you know, I get a lot of creative ideas is in the shower. So yeah, I also sing in the shower. Confession.
Confession time. I am laughing because yes to all of that. Like I've made up stories or little songs that I sing to my body in the shower, like thank you, thanking my body.
I love that. I love
But it
it.
helps. The point of sharing all of this
Yeah.
is it helps. Like getting into that creative space and just allowing yourself to express while the water is running, even better, right? It's
Yes.
it's there's something magical. There really is. And I always think, nah, this isn't going to work, but every single time I feel
Well, your
so much
body
better.
knows.
Your
Yeah, like
body
you
knows.
know if you feel better or not. And that's your mind can go in and say, "Oh, this isn't doing anything." But how do you feel? How do you feel? How are your emotions? How's your well-being? You know, that's all the evidence you need.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other vagus nerve thing, before I forget, and we're talking about water anyway, is cold water. So if you splash cold water
Yeah.
on your face, even if you're just like, if something's happening and you're not even at home, but you can go run into the bathroom and just splash some cold water on your face, that helps to reset things.
Yes, yes. Or even to submerge in cold water if you have
Oh,
that
yeah.
ability to do so, can be really shocking at first, but then, yeah, it like resets the nervous system. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jenny, I'm curious, do you have, I mean, I've basically shared how I've used creativity. I mean, it's basically just how can I drop down into my body and sort of silence or not silence, but calm my brain. I'm wondering,
Yeah.
do you have stories of that in the creative process?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd say most of creativity does that for me, of creative expression. What I want to share today is something very basic and very automatic that I started to pick up that I was doing when I was highly triggered. There's been different periods of my life where, based on my early life trauma and attachment issues, I have been triggered in either work situations or relationships, and it's like triggering that very young vulnerable part of myself. And when that has happened, it's been really uh it just threw everything off. Like when I was saying earlier about like the when I was saying earlier about the prefrontal cortex of the brain going offline, it was like Jenny, the adult, was no longer there. It
Hmm.
was like I was a helpless child and didn't even have the language to communicate what I was needing in those moments. And it was really, really challenging and scary. And what I found that I would do in those moments, especially when I was like in the office, is I had a yellow pad of paper and a pen, and I used to do these doodles over and over and over again. And it was like these spirals that then I would like close off. So they ended up looking like little snail shells. And I would just fill the page with it and different sizes. And it was like a puzzle where they would all fit together in different ways. But as I look back at some of these really challenging times, I have found entire pages of this. And I realized that something about the motion of it and the mindlessness of just doing the same thing over and over again with my hands and expressing was self-soothing. And it was a resourcing activity that was beyond words. I didn't have to communicate anything, but somehow it helped me to stay there, to stay in my body, to stay present. And then some of the other pages I had a combination of that and a phrase on it. Um, and something about drawing the letters and making them like these block letters. And it was usually a phrase to myself, like, I'm here for you. I will never leave you. But writing them out in these block letters was like, it was soothing.
Hmm.
I can't explain it. So the example I'm giving here is not my typical form of art making. It's not painting or coming up with some image, I mean, I'm talking about something extremely basic and always accessible, which is the power of doodling and finding whatever repetitious, is that even a word?
Repetitive might work.
Repetitive, that works. Whatever repetitive shape or motion or just whatever feels good and nourishing. And we talk about this when we're leading process painting. It's like, what feels good to do? What do you feel like doing, like, over and over again? What helps you to drop in? And that was what really helped.
That's really it, isn't it? What helps you to drop in? What help? I mean, you
Yeah.
just talk about, so I imagine you, because I've done it myself, is the doodling, and then it drops you in, and all of a sudden, oop, here's contact with that true version of yourself, giving you wisdom right there on the page,
Right.
and then just the outlining of the words is soothing. It is like the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot that's going on, both, yeah, with the nerves, with yeah, with the awareness, with but also with the almost like reparenting, like being there, like you said, as the voice of wisdom. I mean, there's a lot that's happening in those moments, and we're not talking about a long time here. I mean, I might do this for 5 minutes, and it's amazing what 5 minutes can do when you are in a situation where you can't get away, you can't go see your therapist in that moment or whatever, can't run or escape the situation. But how can you show up for yourself and soothe yourself in those moments?
100%. Yeah. And really, I mean, it is so simple, and it's just a smidge of a turn to being able to do something like that daily if need be. Just to be able to
Mm.
be able to stop and say, "Oh, hey, I'm feeling a little dysregulated here. I am going to give myself 5 minutes with a cup of tea, and I'm going to doodle,
Yeah.
and I'll talk to you
Yeah.
later." And it's
Yeah.
just a matter of catching it and then, like, bringing it home and being able to do that. And I found that I can do at least parts of that almost anywhere. Even the humming. Like, I can be in Target and be like
Mm.
overstimulated and hum, and like, okay, now I can notice my
Yes.
feet. I'm walking. You know what I like? It's that basic.
Yes. Humming, rhythm, all of those things, yeah, help to come home to the body. And again, speaking of the vagus nerve, like, yeah, to stimulate that, yeah, to promote the rest and digest, the healing. Yeah, beautiful.
Absolutely.
Well, do we want to share some practices? Do you have any, right? We haven't talked about this yet earlier, but do you have any writing prompts
I,
related?
I do. I have a few. I have a
Oh,
couple.
excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
So we'll just start there, right? The only other thing I would say
Yeah.
is I've found a lot of success, and people who've worked with me in the past know this because I use it all the time, and we'll be using it in our Fridays in our
Soul Nectar
thank
community.
you. I have a block with that. In the Soul Nectar community, we will be doing that, yes. And I think scribbling is amazing. And I know you talk about it too, Jenny, and we receive that stuff from Sarah and from Stuart and everything, but really just scribbling it out. And again, that can happen almost anywhere. So I mean, scribbling is awesome, doodling is awesome, but my writing prompts are, if my nervous system could speak, what would it say? And it sounds a little out there,
Mm,
but give it a shot. Like you might be surprised what comes up, and to not edit what comes up and think it's silly or whatever. Just give it a chance to have it say. Another question
mm.
is, how could I soothe myself right now? Like, what is the
Oh,
simplest thing I could do in this moment?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So those are the two.
I
Those are the
love it.
two main ones that I have.
I love it. Yeah.
What about you, Jenny?
Well, and I love that you mentioned scribbling because, yeah, I know we didn't chat about it, but that was actually part of what I was going to bring as the creative expression activity. And I'm calling it scribble and fill. And this is something I've done many times before, is when this can happen just to get nervous energy out or anger or whatever you're feeling. We've talked about this many times before, but just grabbing a marker or a paintbrush or whatever, a pen, and just letting it out on the page, scribbling, filling it as much as you wish. And then once you do that, and it can also be slow. I mean, it could be whatever speed you want, but once I do that, I usually find that there's shapes created, some kind of shapes. Maybe it's all jaggedy, or maybe it's curvy, but maybe it's a combination of things. But tying this back into the coloring aspect, taking your scribbles and then starting to color them in. And it can be with a pencil, it could be with colored pencils, it could be with crayons, markers, or just the same pen you were just using, but starting to find shapes in it. That has been something that I've gone to many times, similar to what I was saying earlier with the snail spirals. But yeah, allowing that to soothe the body and mind is just to first get that frenetic energy out, and then to start to really drop in as we start to fill the spaces.
Mm, that's awesome. Yeah, and I've done that as well. And the filling in it's like a complete thing. And I love that you've brought that to the table. It's a complete exercise. It gets the frenetic
Right.
energy out, yes, and then the dropping in and the filling in.
Yeah, and it can be, I mean, again, we're talking super simple here. This is not something to be judged or critiqued. I mean, this can be a little, those little tiny notepads of like 3 by 5, whatever. Like I've done that just on the run before. I used to carry one of those in my purse, but anywhere. I mean, yeah, this can be a quick experience, but something really effective for in those small, short moments. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's actually a good tip. If you find yourself wanting to do things like that but don't have the materials, go ahead and stick some in your purse or in your pockets, or whatever you have that you
Right.
take with you during the day.
Yeah.
I still have one in my purse, and I've done it in doctor's offices before.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep one in your car. I mean, yeah. I have little pads of paper everywhere, not just to write all my little reminders, but yeah, for those moments of needing to doodle or needing to get something out. Like, yeah, it's very effective for that.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay. Well,
Well,
I feel complete. How about you?
yeah, it feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. Of course, we're going to link all of the articles that we read, and that talk about all of the stuff that we talked about, and maybe even some more stuff. So if you're interested,
Yeah.
take a look at that, and you can do some deep diving as well. Um, of course, we're available at creativenectarstudio.com for just checking out, seeing what we've got going on. As we mentioned earlier, we have our Soul Nectar community, and we're
Yes.
very excited about the online community. We have our first Creative Soul Friday this Friday, and we cannot
Yes.
wait.
Yes. Yes. So
Yeah.
excited about that.
So
And
say
as
hello.
always, Yes, say hello, see about joining us. And as always, if you got something from this episode or enjoy what we're doing here, please, yeah, contribute a rating, a rating, a review, whatever the words are.
Absolutely. No words necessary. Probably just a thumbs up or a
Just a
heart.
thumbs up or stars. We'll take them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you so
And
much.
yeah, and we'll see you next time.